evening. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Speech and freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Yo. What up, world? It is your boys. We are here live. Did you say something? I could not hear you.
No, I'm just messing with you because
I was going to say,
the
like,
same way every time.
Yeah, you stopped and froze. I was like, oh, man. We immediately ran into technical difficulties. Either way, it is Sunday night, 8:30 on this All-Star weekend. What is going on? It's your boys, the Pogues, and we are here for a redacted 1-hour power-packed show in what seems like Operation Information Overload, man. There is always something going on with this administration. So, Pappy, how about we come out the pleasantries and jump right into it? We got 60 minutes, man. Let's get right down to business. How you feeling, man?
I've been sick for 3 days, but I thought it'd be worth getting on and talking about all the fun stuff that's going on right now, from Napoleon to Vance.
Let's jump into it. Here we go. First topic. So much winning. POTUS, in between taking laps at the Daytona 500 in his beast truck, got on and did an interview and said it only took him less than 4 weeks to bring America back to the status of winning. He says he has done it successfully with his administration, and we are back to the status of being number one in the world. However, he's never been one to let things like facts get in the way, things like that. I think for the first time in my lifetime, I don't know if it's happened before, the first time in my lifetime, I've heard our neighbors in the North boo our national anthem. Now we've had some tumultuous times with our neighbors, as you always do. You know what I'm saying? You live close to somebody for a while, you tend to have some disagreements and some rough patches, which is cool. But I think this is the first time we've ever had a point to where they were so boisterous in their displeasure with us. And that was interesting. And then I saw an image, and I'm going to share it with you real quick, that I wanted to share, just to kind of give a brief synopsis of where we are, because I know the economy was such a big thing in the build up to the voting, and why everybody was like, we can't vote for Kamala and Biden because of policies and this, that, and the other, right? So I was able to see where we were, this far. And granted, in all fairness and transparency, it has only been a month. But let's just say the numbers aren't looking good. Eggs, 53%. A lot of that's due to the bird flu epidemic that kind of took out the poultry industry. But yeah, man, just all across the board, indications are that numbers are rising across the board. The threat of tariffs, I think, has been mixed. I will, to his advantage, he has been effectively using the threat of tariffs to negotiate some really, really decent deals, right? To mixed reviews. So, I don't want anybody, like, when you guys see this, I don't want anybody to say, oh, he's just straight outwardly bashing the administration, because I'm not. I try to look at this when I do my research and get ready for the week. I try to look at this as fair and as honest as possible. He has done, that's one thing about him. He has used that threat of tariffs really good. I think the deal with India was really, really strategic. I think that was a really smart play with him, with the president of India, and killing that BRICS movement. BRICS was really, really dangerous and a really big threat to the economy of the United States. So getting the president of India under his thumb, at least momentarily, I think was a really, really great strategic deal for him. But I mean, what I'm saying, it's one of those things where, I don't know if it's madness or just, genius. He's fucking insane, man. The sheer number of insane movements of this administration just outweigh the brief hints of brilliance that happen. You know, you'll get these, I don't know, out of 100 movements in this administration, I feel 99 of them will be pure batshit crazy, and you'll get this one instance of brilliance, and you'll be like, aha, right? And you'll be like, that right there was I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that right there was a stroke of genius. Great job. And then you'll come out with something bad, he'll come out crazy, and then he'll come out, you know what, we should buy, I want to buy the Pacific Ocean. You'll be like, God, just why, man? Why? Just why? So what are your thoughts, man? We're not even, we're 4 days away from being a month in. 4 days. This has been the longest reign of a presidency ever, and we're not even a month in. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, Canada lost 3-0 on their home ice.
Yeah, they kind of pissed off. Yeah, well, you don't piss off America.
They lost all 3 fights too that happened.
Yeah,
right
yeah. You don't piss off America.
I mean, they dropped gloves within 10 seconds of the puck.
Yeah, you don't. You don't do that. That's one thing you don't do.
I thought that was pretty funny. But as far as that, I'll push back a little bit on the 99-1. I think it's more along the lines of what we have said, the general political stuff in this country. 5% on the hard left are crazy, 5% on the hard right are crazy, and everything in the middle is just kind of day to day, and we do it. I think that's kind of realistically, I think that's more what Trump has done, because yeah, you can say, for example, let's say Robert Kennedy Jr. gets named the Health and Human Services, whatever it is. And you can say, well, that's crazy. Okay, fine. But how many other appointments were that's fine. I mean, the other appointments really aren't a lot of them. And I know what your feelings on some of them, but I think for the most part, I know, and I didn't want to get into Tulsi Gabbard this early.
I didn't. I've spoken my. I just laughed.
But I mean, if you look at it like that, let's just, without knowing where it's all going to go, let's say those 2 are crazy. But then, there's going to be at least 2 on the cabinet that are just going to be phenomenal. There's some different ones that I think are going to be really good. So I'm not overly concerned at this point. And I do think that when we're talking about some of the stuff with Trump, it's funny because he made a quote from Napoleon, something like, the person who saves his country cannot break the law. And it was funny because Bill Kristol, the faux conservative, who was not the voice of conservative, but he became, very anti-MAGA and all that. And he's like, oh, it sounds even better in the original German. It's like, dude, that was Napoleon. It was French. So put the anti-Trump pen down, take a step back. I saw another one with the anti-Musk that said, it was on Twitter, it said, and it's been going around, something like driving a Tesla now is like driving a Volkswagen Bug in 1939. And I was sitting there going, in 1939, the VW Bug was really popular in Germany. Everybody loved the VW Bug because it was cheap and it got you around. It was, so what? And like, if Sheryl Crow wants to go out and sell her Tesla and donate the proceeds to NPR, okay. I mean, that's cool. Good for you, Sheryl. I mean, whatever. But with the other stuff, like, does anybody actually believe that Trump is that we're going to annex Canada or we're just going to, there's just no way.
I think Trudeau has been very adamant about that not happening. And I do believe that Canadians will fight with everything in them to not allow that to happen.
Of course they will. I saw it.
I will tell you, Musk is an existential threat to our nation. I believe everything within me that guy is probably the biggest threat. I will tell you, I will make Tulsi Gabbard the president of the United States before I trust Elon Musk. And and you probably can tell how I feel about Tulsi Gabbard based off our last conversation.
I will say this. For all the pushback on Elon Musk, I think it's really depressing to see how many people on the left are attacking a African American the way they have. I think it's horrible.
Yeah, loopholes are what they are, man. Loopholes are what they are. And
no, I will say, yeah, I will say this.
In our month of Black History, I support my African brother, but
I will say this. If you look at what Musk has done, people are quick to point out that Elon Musk didn't create Tesla and he didn't create SpaceX and some of these things. Okay, yeah. What he did was what successful people do, that Romney did, that other people. He came in, he invested in the company, he got rid of the people that weren't working, he moved the people up. Twitter, you remember when he bought Twitter, everybody's, Twitter's going to be gone in a month. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it took a few weeks, and then suddenly it was like, oh, Twitter's fine. In fact, it increased even once you got rid of the bots, and his workforce got cut to, a pretty significant level of people that weren't worth what they were doing. I do think that one of the legitimate arguments might be just the speed, because you do have mistakes happen when you go too fast, right? So there was the whole thing with the organization that was in charge of the nuclear stockpiling, and he basically fired. Yeah, they basically fired the executive, the top of them, and they brought him back within a couple of days. So no harm, no foul, but it does look bad for sure. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I will sit here and I'll say the USAID stuff is phenomenal. The amount of money that was going through USAID, and there's a phrase, I think, Shakespeare, methinks thou dost protest too much. I believe it's Shakespeare, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But, the way the Democrats reacted to USAID, I thought was pretty telling. Because if I'm somebody who is against the slash and burn from that, I probably go in and say, okay, hey, you know what? You want to cut this? You want to find out where the fraud? Let's do that together. Let's go in. Let's find out, what have you got? Let's go through this, and let's not. No. You can't cut anything. You can't get it.
Here's the thing. They did that, and here's where I'll push back. That whole oversight committee that they put, the illustrious Marjorie Taylor Greene, God bless her soul, who I love so much, in charge of. They did that. They said, hey, man, we're with you. Let's go through this. This is a great idea. We'll go through this together. We'll do it. Here's where the USAID thing was an epic, catastrophic failure. And you're not going to see the effects of it yet. Well, you're starting to, because the Republicans are now starting to feel the effects. And again, this happens every time. Republicans will cut off their fucking nose until they realize that they probably needed to breathe. And then they say, oh shit, well, we can only breathe through our mouth, but we also need to eat. Those farmers in the Midwest that had those contracts that was feeding the grain and stuff to the USAID, well, they don't have those contracts no more. And they can't feed the US consumers because we gave those contracts to China. So now you have all these farmers in the Midwest with all this food and nowhere to go with it. Same thing that happened with the NIH contracts and all this other stuff. So now what you have is these Republican senators saying, hey, I think we may have moved a little too fast. Let's go back and review it. And you know what Elon is saying? Oh, too bad, so sad. So now Congress is saying, oh, well, hey, man, they're not listening. Well, shit, it's too late. It's too late. And had they just taken a measured approach, which nobody was against, by the way. Nobody was against it. Hey, we love it. Great idea. Let's take it. You don't have to do everything in one day. But what did the administration come in and say? We had a mandate. The voters want us to go fast. We want us to go fast. And all Congress was saying was, hey, we're on your team. This is great. We have an opportunity to do something that's never been done before, but let's do it the right way. But in pure Republican chaos fashion, Y'all came in and said, no, hell no, we got a mandate and we're going to chop this bitch and burn it to the ground. And now everybody's saying, oh, well, hey, we fired all these people and we did all this and we lost all these contracts. None of these guys aren't getting paid. What are we going to do?
So I think that the people on the ground are just fine with how fast it's going. Like, I understand that.
Wait, the people on which
the Republicans. I mean, if you go on Republican, Republicans on Twitter are like, yeah, this is what we voted for.
No, not in Kentucky, not in North Carolina. The guys that aren't getting funding, not in Kansas. The farmers union.
Look at the people in North Carolina that suddenly, after how many months after the flooding and the storm that came through, they're actually getting some relief and some support from the federal government that they weren't getting before.
But they're not.
So that's not what I'm seeing. But okay, so
they just filed a lawsuit. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull that up later because they just filed a lawsuit because they're not getting funded from FEMA.
Who's they?
And the guys you're talking about you're talking about the guys that the first flooding, not the ones that just happened last week.
No, the first flooding.
The first one. Yeah. They filed the lawsuit.
Well, of course.
Trump came and did the photo op with those guys and then the guys in Georgia, and then said, hey, funding's on the way. And then in pure Trump fashion, funding never came. So now they're filing a lawsuit. Same thing with the guys.
Well, but that doesn't have anything to. That's not USAID though.
No. What I'm saying, USAID is with the funding with the farmers. What I'm saying is when he came in and he suspended the payments for FEMA was in the process of cutting those checks for those guys.
Okay, so and here's where the problem you run into. If the whole point is you're trying to make sure that money's saved and you're trying to make sure that the tax dollars are being spent appropriately. Okay. I just saw a buddy of mine posted, like, it was a video about how Boeing had just ridiculously overpriced even these soap dispensers on Air Force jets. So this little soap dispenser, it was marked up like 4,000%, and it cost millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars. Meanwhile, a soldier who never got issued a knee pad is being told, no, you have to pay for it. And that was kind of his point, and that happens. So I think there is some difficulty in terms of how quickly you move. But, at what point do you say, okay, we do need to check these payments. We do need to check what's going on. If you start looking at the fraud numbers over the past 4, 8, 12, 15, 16, 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. Every presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, you remember when Bernie Sanders said, I'm going to give everybody free college. And they said, well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. Mm-hmm. Oh, really? So everybody recognizes that there's billions, if not trillions of dollars of fraud, waste, and abuse. Mm-hmm. So I can understand the difficulty there because you look at some of the major things that have happened just even recently, going back to Katrina, going to the Maui wildfires, going to the Los Angeles fires. You have all these things when the federal government jumps in, you're talking about a significant percentage of those funds get rerouted to criminals, right? Because it's significant. So think about it like this. Okay. And yes, I get it. Like, okay, if you have $1 billion going to New Orleans to help with Katrina, and only 20% of that goes to criminals, that's $200 million. Yeah. So it's the problem is, Thad, I get it. The smash and grab tactics with what is being done is, I look at that and say, well, okay. The question becomes, should we have slowed the car down, come to a complete stop, unloaded what needed to be unloaded, loaded back up what was supposed to be going, and then slowly get going again, right? And Trump has basically slammed the brakes on, comes to a screeching halt. They're in the middle of throwing everything out, and then everything out of the back of the van and going, we need to empty this as quickly as possible. Oh, wait, no, that box doesn't go. Oh, wait, that box doesn't go. and then as soon as it gets back on, they're going to take off again, right? Full pedal to the metal. And one of the things, KJ, you just said was that the Republicans, in typical fashion, are going, pedal to the
all
metal
gas,
and all this stuff.
All gas, no brakes.
Right. And I think that's because traditionally Republicans have been worried that as they put stuff forward, they're going to get. I've always found it funny when people say the Democrats don't get together and they don't stand together and they're discombobulated at the leadership level and they don't. And I've always thought, like, what? What are you talking about? The Democrats are really good about filibustering. They're really good about slowing things down to a crawl. And Republicans can be, but generally I don't think they're nearly as good as they think they are. I think the Republican leadership hasn't been solid in years. Meanwhile, if Nancy Pelosi said, this is how the House is voting, every Democrat fell behind her. And you can't even, meanwhile, the Johnson can't even get 1 year to the next as the Speaker of the House without going, am I going to get, is this still my job?
Here lately, but I mean, under Paul Ryan and when McConnell had his senses about him, the Republican leadership was lockstep. Let's be clear.
On some things
during the Obama years, McConnell had the Republican Party under his thumb. Nobody blew a fart unless McConnell gave him permission.
And Harry Reid was the same way when he.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I mean, both parties had a really good grasp. It wasn't until all these wild cards came in with the the Tea Parties, and then later with this MAGA friend shit, and then the new progressives on the Democratic Party with all their crazy stuff. Then everything kind of got a little frizzy. But yeah, traditionally.
Well, and that's part of, I think we're in a I'm not even sure what we can call it. It's not post MAGA, it's not post racial, it's not post we're basically, I think we're only a month in to a new something. What that something is, I don't know what it's going to be labeled.
I think it's yet to be determined, man. I don't know where the country is, and I think we're at the precipice of something, and it's yet to be determined. I don't know. It could be, it could be great, or it could be an utter disaster. We just got to figure it out.
And I think that's what Democrats and Republicans this last election were voting on. It's do you go on the status quo with Kamala Harris and the Democrats, or do you go to and now for something completely different from Monty Python? Now, is the Monty Python sketch going to be funny, or is it just going to be crazy with no real payoff? Because Monty Python, as funny as Monty Python was, and I love Monty Python, there were some skits that you'd watch and just went, I'm sorry, I don't get it. What?
That's the risk of brilliance, right? You take the shot, and you're going to be remembered for all the great ones, right? But then for all the great ones, people will forget the ones that missed the mark. But back to the more pressing issue with this whole Doge thing, and here's where I think a lot of people are missing the mark, right? Like everybody's saying, Elon Musk, and we're anti-Elon Musk. We're not, right? What you have is a bunch of Elon Musk.
You are.
Well, Elon Musk is absolutely fucking right. And I'll tell you why. Elon Musk is robbing the country blind. And I've never seen anybody so willing to have their pockets picked and then champion the fact that they're being robbed. I've never seen a society so willing to have somebody rob them and be thankful for being robbed. This man has.
Can I ask you something on that? I need to ask you about that, though. I want you to define the robbing. Like, what is? If you're robbing somebody, you get personal gain from that. So, can you go into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Elon Musk is, and the purpose of Doge is what? I will tell you. The purpose of we'll walk through this. We will walk through this. What is the purpose of Doge?
To cut taxpayer spending to things that should not be spent in tax dollars.
And in order to do that, you need a record of accounting, right? There has to be a record of accounting, right?
Which has been a huge problem because accounting.
We haven't gotten there, right?
Okay.
So in theory, if I am setting up a government a government entity that its sole purpose is to find fraud, waste, and inefficiencies, one thing I'm going to need is somebody who can count, I'd imagine, right? So I'm going to staff my team with people who can count, right? I'm not going to go in there with gardeners. I'm not going to go in there with landscapers. I'm not going to go in there with roofers or construction guys. I'm going to go in there with people who can find what I'm tasked to find, right? But Elon goes in with tech guys and coders, right? Because I'm looking for what exactly, right? Not one person on their team has a background in accounting. Not one person on their team has a background. If you did just a smidge of research on his team, not one of them, not a single freaking one of them has an accounting background, a mathematician background. They're all coders. They're all hackers. They're all Linux. They're all specializing in code breaking. What the fuck do I need a bunch of code breakers in there if I'm going in there to find government efficiency? One, okay, cool, not a problem. Hey, that's a little fishy, but whatever. You're a tech bro. You're the smartest guy in the world. I believe in your mad genius, right? You've shut down at this point. You've shut down at least 12 government entities, right? You've gone through buildings. You've locked out people illegally. You've locked out sitting members of Congress, right? All of these guys have been locked out. No access. You fired hundreds of thousands of people at this point, right? You've locked them out, right? And there is not a single method of reporting or accountability that you can find or anybody else can find outside of a fucking Twitter feed. Not a one. Not a one. The Doge website hasn't been up for a fucking week. For a week. And then when it did finally get popped up, within 24 hours, the damn Doge website was hacked. You have a team of coders. You have a team of coders on a government efficiency website, and in 24 hours, your government efficiency website was hacked. What the hell is going on? Now, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. All of that shit be damned, Lance. If you pull yourself out of the left and right wing and you look at it, eventually red flags have to start pinging. None of this makes sense. For 4 weeks, you've been running ramshod, right? What do you say? Team no sleep. I sleep in the office. Everybody's sleeping. They're working 18 hours a day. Not a single report has been uploaded into this goddamn website. There's 30 million damn tweets, 30 fucking million reports. I can tell you what Elon Musk farted 37,000 damn times since he's been in fucking office, right? But not a single transparency report of an update. I know what was tweeted. You can tell me what was tweeted that you found, but I don't have a single factual record of a count that I can verify in the 4 weeks that you've been in office for a government entity whose sole and singular purpose is to identify and to report on the fraud, waste, and elimination of the miscalculation of funds. Now, if we pull all the emotions aside of it and we look at it as rational human beings, we can sit back and say, wait a minute, something's not right. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's a very fair point.
So I would say this. Time will tell if you're right. Absolutely. But let me go back to your question. Go back to one thing you said. What is Musk stealing? What is he robbing from the American people? How is he, and what does he have? What is he gaining?
Data, my friend. Data is the new gold source. Data is the new gold source, man. Right? The more I know about a personal avatar, the more I know about a person's habit, the more I know about them, right? What does Amazon, what does Twitter, what does all of these social avatars gain on us, right? It's data. I need to know what you're thinking. I need to know what your spending habits are. I need to know when you get paid. I need to know why you get paid. I need to know how much you get paid. The more data points I have on a customer, the more I can control them.
Okay, so that makes a little more sense when you say it that way versus he's a thief. If he's gaining information, and unfortunately, I think that's one thing that I've kind of laughed at over the last 3 or 4 years, especially with the COVID shots. Bill Gates wants to put a tracker in you that is gonna have your information. It's like, dude, are you kidding? We have a cell phone on us all the time.
You gotta understand, he doesn't need money. Money is irrelevant. Money does nothing for him, right? Money, when you think about it, he just put in a bid to buy OpenAI, right? OpenAI is a learning model. What do they learn from? What are they learning from?
Interactions. Yeah.
Right. Facebook. What does Facebook learn from? What does Meta learn from? They learn from interactions, right? The more data I have, the more valuable I am, right? And if I control the data, if I control the databases of all the citizens in the United States, that will be pretty goddamn valuable information to have, don't you think?
So your argument is, and I just want to understand this.
Yeah.
So your argument is that if Musk goes in and gets this, essentially he will have a leg up on the competition because he has more access to data and personnel actions and that information that drives influences ahead of his competitors.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, because because it's not about money.
So I will tell you. I'll tell you a little bit of just my, and I know this is very naive on this point. I am very naive when it comes to personal information, what's used for personal information, all that stuff. I'm old enough that I am not a child of the internet. I remember when the internet first started, I was an adult. It was fun to go into chat rooms and talk to people. I'm old enough to remember what Prodigy was. That was my first web browser, I guess. And I'm not even sure that qualified as a web browser. So when I look at this stuff, maybe I need to be more concerned and I need to be more worried because I'm just not that tech savvy or concerned, because at the same time I look at it and I go, okay, so there's the potential negatives of something having my information, but there's also the potential positives because I get some people don't like it. I get it. But like if I'm scrolling through and it's annoying to me if I click on an ad for something this is the one that really drives me bonkers. When I'm going through and I click on an ad solely because I don't know what the thing is. Like, have you seen those for Lowe's or Home Depot and you're like, what is that thing? And you click on it and it's like, oh, okay. And now I'm getting stuff that I was like, dude, I don't care about. I don't work with pipe fitting. That's not something I needed to know. I was just curious what that stupid little thing was. And so the algorithms are all there. They all have it going. And, I just personally, and it's an ignorance on my part, I will fully claim that. And it's a lack of, I don't know if lack of caring is the right word, or just, I'm the type of person who goes, I don't do the wrong thing. So if somebody's going to try and have my information to take advantage of me, I'm not sure how they can. And maybe that's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, it's not a matter of what. It's not a matter of everything's a puzzle piece, right? The more I know about you, the more I can control you and manipulate you, right? That's ultimately what it boils down to, right? It's minute now. It's minute now, right? But in a society where you don't own anything or where you don't control anything, every little thing matters. Every little step matters, right?
So your concern is that tech, specifically Musk, with more information, is going to manipulate the populace into a way of thinking that benefits him and, it benefits him, right?
Well, every business person is going to do it to benefit. It's not a Musk issue. Because if I was in a position to gain access on my ideal client avatar, I'd take advantage of it too. That's just smart
Yeah.
business. It's not a Musk issue. It's just what you're doing is you're putting yourself in an unfair unfair advantage over your competition, right?
Okay.
And that in itself is illegal, right?
Okay. So and that's where I guess again, I'm not looking at it in those terms. I look at it and say, if I'm trading and I get it, it's selfish if I say my information versus other people's information, but the way the system works, I mean, how many times in the past 3-4 years have we heard X corporation had a breach? Shoot, the DOD had a breach a couple years ago. We both got that letter that said, hey, your data, including your birth certificate and social security number, may have been compromised. And the DOD is going to provide free Experian.
Here's the thing, though.
Check.
So we got to move on. Yeah, in the interest of time, we got to move on. Here's the thing, though. So when you got that letter, then right, there were protections in place to protect you. The difference between then and now is there are no longer protections because the CFPB that was there to protect you is being neutralized. So now, when your data is manipulated, when they take advantage of you, when that bank takes advantage of you, you no longer have those protections. You have no recourse. So
okay,
it's not just that singular point. Again, if you put the pieces of the pieces of the puzzle together, it makes sense, right? So without that bureau to protect you, right? And I have this data set on you, right? And I charge you that $80 bank fee when you overdraft, right? You have no recourse to protect you.
So
I know that sounds extreme, and I know that sounds extreme.
No, I get it, but
right? So,
part of the problem with that is you've had these government agencies that are there to quote unquote protect you, like what's her face, Warren, Senator Warren. She came up, she was a consumer advocate, right? And she was all for making sure the consumer was protected. Nader was the same way. And then as they came up and they got into different positions, especially Warren, suddenly, she's yelling and screaming about these protections from consumers. But at the same time, when they came out with, and this may or may not be true, but what I saw was she was one of the biggest campaign receivers from Big Pharma. So I don't. I just don't trust.
Without complete government overhaul, you're not going to take that out, right? But then again, you can't have a POTUS who says he's there to buck the system, and then at the same time remove the provisions for bribery in the system.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
So,
that's
well.
Kind of,
but here's the thing: you're not okay. So if you're talking about bribery, though, when you think about it, like that's a crime, right? So if he's saying the DOJ, that's what the DOJ is supposed to be doing, and local law enforcement, state law enforcement. Menendez just got. I didn't even see what he got sentenced for, but he after years and years and years of corruption, Menendez was and they're not. I don't agree that all the fail safes are gone. I think law enforcement is still there. You still have local law enforcement. You still have state law enforcement, and there is still federal law enforcement. That said, okay. I do go back to it's only been 4 weeks. There are clear opportunities to go in and say, okay, we gutted this, whatever it is, Consumer Products Board. We gutted them because we saw here's issues. But you know what? We've gone through now that we've gone through it and all that, we are going to now we're going to put people back in and some of those things. And I think that that's part of the scary part is that, to me, we've become the administrative state, and to do the whole Star Wars, we hear this, people say, oh, so this is how democracy ends, to raucous applause, and people are talking about Trump, right? And I go back and I look at, being a Star Wars fan, I look at back and say the very first thing in episode 1 was Queen Amidala's in front of the Senate and saying, look, hey, we're under attack. This is serious. We have people dying. And the chancellor says, you're right. We need to get on this. And then he gets a little nudge and you see Palpatine go in and say, now you see the bureaucrats take their real power. And that's what people are worried about. And I think that I know that's a concern I've had. So I'm definitely in a wait and see. I think that people are not used to I don't want to say the non-political, the apolitical, because people are used to the yelling and screaming from certain ways. But I think people aren't really used to anybody willing to come out and actually try something. And we both say it's chaos. We don't know which way it's going to go. But we haven't seen any politician in a while that was willing to say, you know what, F it, let's try something else. And that's what you and I have talked about for a while. And you said, hey, look, the cabinet's effed up. And I've said, hey, we've got to try something different. So yeah, could it blow up in his face? Absolutely. Could it blow up in the US's face? Absolutely. That said, I don't think we're in this constitutional crisis. I think that's a talking point. I think that there are people that are going to look at MAGA regret. Okay, so again, I'm not MAGA. I didn't vote for Trump in 16. I voted for him in 20. I would have voted for him in 24. But I vote for things, and I would have voted Libertarian. And so our friend, Command Sergeant Major A.J. Jackson, he asked me, I'm dropping the name. I don't know if he watches, but there you go. So we've invited him on. He's like, I'm not about to go on to I'm not going to do that stuff. So one of the things he asked me that I thought was interesting, he said, because he's really concerned about potential VA cuts, benefit cuts. And he said, if Trump cuts VA benefit, will you still support him? And that's the problem with an all or nothing approach, is that I'm a conservative, right? So, and I've said this for a long time. My older brother called me out on this in terms of, he said, well, Trump's crazy and you know he's crazy, so you have to vote for Biden. And this was in 2020. And I'm like, if I wasn't going to vote for Trump, I sure as credit I'm not going to vote for Biden. I'll vote Libertarian. Personally, I'm a conservative libertarian. I wish there was a libertarian party that had a little more intestinal fortitude and money and ability and talent, but we don't. So, if Trump fails or Trump doesn't do, am I going to say, oh boy, I wish I had voted for Kamala Harris? No, I'm not. I'm going to say, I wish that the Republican Party had come up with a better choice, whether it had been DeSantis or my pick would have been Abbott. I think J.D. Vance has done some pretty phenomenal things. I love what he said in Europe. He basically said, hey, why are we allowing our Western principles to be thrown under the bus here? Like, America's great. Europe's great. We've done a lot of great things. Why are we allowing our countries to be run out and what our values and morals, the things that made us great? And at the same time, when he says that, then everybody turns around, all the people on the left turn around, see, he's a fascist. You can be anti-left. You could be on the right without being a fascist.
That's not what they call him fascist.
Well, okay. It's because he met with, well, it's because instead of meeting with the chancellor, who's a leftist chancellor, he met with the opposition party.
Let's call him why they call him a fascist because, well,
so here's the thing. If you have Trudeau come down and he has a chance to meet with either Mike Johnson or I don't even know who's the House Minority Leader.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. It is Jeffries. Okay. I was thinking it was Jeffries, but like if he comes down and he has a chance to meet with somebody, he's going to meet with Jeffries. He's not going to meet with Mike Johnson. And there's a reason for that. Like the systems are very, very different in Europe. And like, I don't really have a problem. If he'd met with, what's the French one? Le Pen. If he'd gone to France and he met with Le Pen instead of the current, French Prime Minister, Macron, same thing. Like, I get it. He's meeting with people who have policies who are right. Let
me stop you right there. Because that extreme right dude that he met with, in all fairness, he is extreme right. Like, dude has literally been arrested for pro-Nazi idealism. Like, so when we say like policies and like ideologies. We got to be really careful because JD's been on the fence with some weird shit lately. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you a similar question. If Vance met with, or Trump met with the president of El Salvador, any issues with that?
Depends on how long they meet. If they meet for like a 5-minute meet and greet, which is fine. But JD hung out for like an hour, which is
I'm talking a full-on sit-down state dinner, everything. Yeah, the full bells and whistles.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Okay. And I get it. For me, it's not concerning. I love what he's done. I love that he went in and basically he took his country back. He dropped the hammer on MS-13. Now, he did it in a way that was like, wow, I didn't think anybody would do that. And the other part is you can't do it in the US either, even if you wanted to, right?
He dropped the hammer on MS-13, and then he also rolled back a bunch of, minority rights, and then he beat the shit out of a bunch of Afro Latinas, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a mixed bag.
He personally did. He went out on the street himself.
No. He didn't have to. He didn't have to. But
so you're always going to have, if you want to call it political violence,
my point is you can't be okay with that sort of shit and then come back and say, well, I'm not racist. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't champion and support pro-Nazi candidates and then try to come back to the States and be like, what did I do? Right?
I think I think that's a misstep. I think that's that's definitely something that you have to wonder in terms of, okay, I'm torn, right? Because if you meet with somebody, does that mean you automatically accept especially world leaders? If you meet one world leader meets with another world leader or party leader, whatever level you want to put it, does that mean they agree with everything that is done in that country and every part of their policies and everything that goes along with it? And the reason I say that is President Obama met with the king of Saudi Arabia multiple times. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in the kingdom that is horrible, right? Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time, you go, okay, so what's acceptable? What's not? How much of it is, if you're going in and you say, I would like to see in Germany a more populist, because we're a populist party. We've become the populist party. So we're going to meet with Le Pen and we're going to meet the DFF or something.
I don't know. So here's what you have, right? In less than a month, right? You have for better or worse, you have the ambassador of the United States, Elon Musk, going to Germany and giving a somewhat rambunctious speech about how
Germany. Vance?
No.
Vance or Musk?
Musk first.
Went
to Germany and gave a rather rambunctious, right after he did the whole.
Oh, that's right. Heart goes out to you thing. Yeah.
He goes to Germany and then he gives a rather rambunctious speech in front of the extremist party as a spokesman of the extremist party, talking about how Germany shouldn't be embarrassed about their past and how they should embrace their past, right? And for better or worse, Elon Musk is an ambassador of this administration. The dude literally just held an interview in the White House. So, so you can take, you kind of take what he says as officially, unofficially, a posture of the United States. So you look at that and you say, you look at that and say, okay, dude giving, pseudo-Nazi salute. All right, that's weird. He's autistic. He's cute, right? Then he goes and he gives a speech in front of a radical, pro-Nazi political party saying, hey, don't be embarrassed about the shit you did in 42. We all did it. Hey, it's okay. It's time to embrace it. Let's move on. Okay, hey, man, that's pretty weird, coming from the United States. But whatever. All right. And then not even 2 weeks later, you got the vice president of the United States going over there telling the allies, hey, man, fuck you. We're not going to defend you no more. You figure it out. Y'all need to step your game up. And then, oh, by the way, hey, where the Nazis at? Let's go party. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really, so what I'm saying is it's not a singular point of, you know, that's a bad step. What it's starting to look like now to the world is, hey, this is a official position of the administration. You get what I'm saying? And that is concerning.
Okay, so he went, is the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, and he directly said there's too much focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that. Children should not be guilty of their sin of their parents, let alone their great-grandparents. It's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything. You and I have talked about this. You and I have said, if we could magically have a day where the president or whoever the spokesperson is for America says to all descendants of slavery, we are, as a country, we are sorry. We apologize. And you know what? So today, we're going to self-flagellate bad white people. But tomorrow, you need to get over it. That was remember, that was your.
And I said that, but so the Germans did that, right? The Germans did that, and they did that, right? And they did that to the Jews. But what you absolutely can't say, but what you can't say is, hey man, that happened a long time ago. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. No, you should always feel guilty about it. Trying to eradicate a species, that's some pretty fucked up shit, man.
But again, I can understand where he's coming from just in terms of this. Now, I'm not a slave owner. I didn't have it. I've looked back in as far as I know, there were no slave owners, right? But let's say there was. Let's say I'm Kamala Harris. Should Kamala Harris feel guilty that her great, I think it was two back, great-great-grandfather had slaves in Haiti or wherever it was? I don't think she should.
There's a difference between feeling guilty and dismissing it and moving on, right? I'm not, and that's where I think a lot of the conversation for America comes in. Nobody's asking white people to feel guilty for slavery. You can't feel guilty for something you wasn't personally attached to. But at the same time, you can't sit back and be like, hey, fuck it, it happened, move on, right? Especially when you still have the same effects. Just last week in Chicago, a dude was sending damn threats to a sitting congresswoman about lynching her in 2025.
And that person should absolutely be
arrested
for.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't. Yeah, but what I'm saying is you can't sit back and say that happened. You know, black people need to move on and get over it. When in 2025, we're still, you know, you're still using those same coded words and those same coded veiled threats of terror in 2025. But at the same time saying, hey, oh, well, black people get over that shit. It's over.
Hold on.
It doesn't work.
I was going back to what you said. Remember?
No, I'm with you. Said this. So. No, I'm with you. But I'm saying it only works if you say, all right, cool. From this point on, we're done with it. But you can't be like, you can't throw your hands up. You know, you can't throw the rock and then throw your hands up and say, oh, I didn't do it. You get what I'm saying?
So
it doesn't.
I guess. Look, I understand. I understand where he's coming from in terms of, now I didn't see the full speech. I only read what he said, right? And I agree in terms of there's nothing wrong with being proud of your German heritage. There's nothing wrong with being proud of being your Irish heritage, your African heritage, whatever, right?
Right.
So if you're a grandchild, if you're a child and your grandfather was somebody who went out and committed war crimes, you can acknowledge that what your grandfather did was wrong and still be proud of who you are and still be proud of your heritage, even though your grandfather was a piece of crap. Well, grandpa was an SS officer.
Right.
I can see it. But that said, I think you're also dealing with, at least in Musk's case, somebody who's not a politician.
But see,
right?
no, hold on. That's where you're wrong.
Uh-huh.
So let me. I'm gonna show you the difference, right? What you just said is perfectly fine, right? Hey,
Okay.
our granddad was a piece of shit. He was an SS officer, right?
Yeah.
But then what you turn the fuck around and do as Elon Musk, you go on stage and says, you know what? Fuck you. You can't have it both ways. If you,
he did that first.
That's what I'm
The
saying.
salute was first.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you can't dismissively say that my granddad was a piece of shit and he was wrong, and then come turn right back around and say that I still believe that that's the right way to do business. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't make it. You didn't learn anything from it. What you're saying is, yeah, that was the wrong way of doing business. But keep in mind, I'm still willing to do business that way to keep you in line. You understand?
I guess
it doesn't work.
Yeah, I get it. I think that well, yeah, Thad, but with that comment, we're talking on the side of the guilty party. Right. We're talking about in Germany the guilty.
Right.
Just because nobody's nobody's right. Right, and nobody's saying
from it.
Yeah, and like the heritage. Well, what he put is the ADOS don't even have the ability to draw the line to their heritage. Well, yeah, and nobody's saying that the Jews should just get over it. That's not. I don't think anybody is saying that either, right? But I can understand the idea of look, it's okay to be German, and to the broader point. Absolutely. This is where Vance went out. And he basically said to an audience of Europeans who have for years and years have been going further and further to the left, right? And he basically came out and said, why can't we look at the positive things of our culture? Why can't we say that what got us here, if you want to call it Judeo-Christian, if you want to call it Eurocentric, if you want to call it whatever, there's a point where I get the idea of, as a country, Trump wants to come in and say, we're winning again. Go back to the very first thing, winning, right? Mm-hmm. We want to be the number one country in the world, and we're the best, right? Nobody, I guarantee you this, nobody in China, when Premier Xi gets up and says, the Chinese, 我们是最好了. We're the woman. Zui Haola is very good. I don't remember how to say the best.
Yep.
Gong Haola. It might be Gong Haola. Woman should Gong Haola. Tells you how bad my Chinese is at this point. But when he gets up and says, "We are the greatest country in the world. We are the best." You know what the Chinese people do? They go, "Dang Skippy, we are." The characters for China in Chinese are Zhongguo, which is center nation. They believe they are the center of the entire world. So they don't look at the things that they failed on. They don't look back in early 1930s where they were getting trucked by Japan. Sure. They go, you know what? Yeah, we got trucked. We need to overcome. F the Japanese. We're the best now. So I think there's a point where, as Americans and this current administration going in and saying, hey, it's okay to say America's back. It's okay to say America number one, because if you said that if you say that, this is the problem with kind of, it's the online argument too, right? Man, I sure love apples. And then you get blasted with, what's wrong with oranges? What's wrong with bananas? Blah, 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 right? And that's kind of where we've been at. And so Trump has basically come in, I think, and said, look, F you guys. I like apples. If you guys don't like apples, couldn't care less. I'm an apple guy. And so if America is going to win, we're the best country there is. If we want to take over Canada, we could. If we want to go take the Panama Canal, we could. I think there's some bluster, but real quick, and then I'll give you last thought. The reason I think it's just bluster. I saw this, I think, today, and it was a great point. If anybody believed in the world, that Trump was actually going to mobilize the military to try to go in and forcefully take Canada, everybody be freaking out if it was Putin saying the same thing that he was going into Poland or wherever, right? That's why it's not, nobody takes it seriously. It's at this point, I think the US and Canada, they're neighbors that have always had a good relationship. And there's a point where they're going, you know what? It's time to yell at each other for a little bit. And eventually it'll get back fine. It's not a big deal. Canadians booing us during the national anthem up there, doesn't really hurt my feelings. Again, scoreboard. And as far as what's going on in the country, I think this is going to be for quite a while. And I don't know what the answer is, but we got to wait and see. We're only 4 weeks in. Are we even 4 weeks in?
Not
Barely.
Even. I mean, we're just on next week. Monday.
In 2 days, it'll be 4 weeks or whatever, right? Yeah. So, we'll see. Well, and some people don't think, like Thad puts there, if it really was putting America first, fine. But I think it is. I think, to me, and I'll bet Liberty says, yeah, of course Trump's putting America first. And that's the different perspective. And that's okay. As long as at the end of the day, ultimately, here's what I look at. And I said this with Biden. I said this with Trump. I said it with Obama. I don't have to agree with their policies per se, but I always want them to succeed because I don't want a president to fail. If the president fails, the country fails. And I always want our country to do well. I want us to be the greatest country in the world. And I think we are. For what we've said before is, yeah, we've got a lot of problems in this country, but I'm not moving anywhere. So, KJ, there you go. Final thoughts for you. Go.
Yeah, man. So, we covered a lot of ground today. I don't know how long this Trump experiment's going to last. If the first
4 years,
not even if the first month is any indication of it. I saw a post that was interesting. It said finally the country is being run like a business that's being stripped of assets before it's being sold for liquidation. And I thought that was pretty funny because these boys are definitely running through everything. So hopefully, things get turned around pretty quick. And as always, this is one of them things where I will gladly hope to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong so badly. That is definitely something. Liberty. It's no doubt about it. The when it comes to social issues, I'm going to give you the worst kept secret that America has known for about 100. How long have we been around? 200 years. America has a white problem when it comes to social issues, right? And the only person that can fix social issues in America is white people, right? They blame it on everybody else, but the only person that can really fix the social issues in America are white people, right? Until white America decides that they want to leave people to fuck alone and make everything equal, we're gonna have social issues because you've had the civil rights era, you've had the women's rights era. We've run the gamut at this point, right? We've run the gamut. Everybody's giving it a shot. Everybody has given it a shot to make things equal, except the one demographic that keeps the shit going, right? And as my grandmama used to say, it's always the one that starts the most shit, the last one to acknowledge it, right? And until white America realizes that they are the ones that are causing the most shit, it won't get fixed. And we got to have a coming to Jesus meeting with white America with these social issues, right? Because if we can get to a point to where we just say, hey man, just leave people alone, right? We all want the same things, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Don't tread on me. Leave me the fuck alone, right? Reparations be damned. 40 acres and a mule be damned. You can have your board of education. You can have your government, all of that stuff, right? Here, this is what you need to do, Liberty. I will give you the plan.
Let's do that. Let's do that next week. I think that's a good thing for next week.
You got to go.
Yeah.
You got to go.
I agree. I was thinking that too, KJ. I want you to come up with what you are king for the day next Sunday. And
easy.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next week.
So one last thing. We got to go before we do this. One last thing. KJ and I and a buddy of mine, a third pog, we have been talking about potentially, instead of a book club, potentially doing a movie club. So I think what we're going to do is the first weekend in Wednesday, we're going to host on X in one of the spaces a movie night. Basically, we're going to go in and we're going to talk about a movie. A war movie. We're going to start with war movies, and then we'll see what people want to do. But we're going to start with war movies, and we're going to the first movie we're going to talk about is one called The Outpost from 2017, 18. It's a nonfiction about an Afghanistan outpost that got overrun. So hopefully you're all there, and KJ will cut this and put it on the media that we're going to do this. The first. And we're going to start doing it. I don't know if we're going to do it every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, but I think right now we're looking at the first one on March 5th, movie night with the Pogs. So
I'm gonna get killed on social media this week. For that
why?
Sake, by the way.
What about white people?
Oh yeah.
It's only if you cut it up. You should
Liberty, you're gonna be mean. Liberty, you're not mean.
You should absolutely cut that up and get the responses. And see what people say. I think you absolutely should. I think that's but here's the thing. I want people like Thad saying what he thinks. I want you saying what you think. I think that's really important because especially as an individual, I think that's important. I think I've done just about everything I can personally. But anyway, there you go. We'll find out next week.
Man. We gotta go. All right,
cool.
8:30 Liberty. 8:30. We will see you. We'll see you. We will see you. We'll see you. All right. See you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right. Yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Reaching freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Something you can fix.
Yo.